She's not looking at her best today, but she... This is happening all over the world.
Okay, thanks everyone for coming. This is like beyond our wildest dreams. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Turning up.
That's as loud as it goes. Is that okay? Okay, before we start, I want to ask you to take a moment to acknowledge the custodians on this land on which we stand. Thank you to everyone for coming. Obviously it wouldn't have happened if it was just me and this girl. So thank you so much. Big thank you to part of Junkadelic.
Check out the plans.
And a big thank you to Hairballs, which is the Impro Theatre group. There's only a small portion of them, but gee, they've made their presence known. We've got a petition that's going to the federal government. Please feel free to sign it. It's open until about the 17th of next month. We'll put them around, but please try and sign today. We've got quite a few of them to sign there. That's about having GM labelling, and that's about having a halt on any more approvals. Yes. There's sign sheets there also if you want to sign up for the latest issues that come from Foodwatch WA. You can get regular email letters and get hassled. And you can always press delete. We've also got a collection for Steve Marsh there, the tin. We'll talk about him later for those who don't know about him. And there's also some general information, please help yourself.
Interesting statue of Indigenous.
It's called was started in the United States by a small group of people with a passion for change. And today we're joining over 400 events around the world. And there's 8 others happening in Australia. Perth are having theirs at 2 o'clock this afternoon, but as Albany tends to go a bit quiet after midday, we're having ours at 11, which is the time that they're having in the States, Eastern Standard Time in the States. So why are we here? This was all started by these guys because essentially they were just a small group, but they were just we're so concerned about our food supply. And we had an email from them and they've just said they can't believe how it's swelled around the world. They're concerned, as we are, that in the US, the Monsanto Protection Act gave biotech companies immunity from federal courts, paving the way for Monsanto to plant illegally approved and potentially dangerous 3M crops. We are also concerned that in the USA, Monsanto was able to ensure an amendment that was made to the 2013 Farm Bill that essentially would stop any US state from having labelling. We're concerned that, like the USA and Australia, GM foods were approved based on data from Monsanto alone. With their catch cry, they are substantially equivalent to non-GM foods and therefore exempt from scrutiny.
Shame!
We're concerned that Monsanto lives at the doorsteps of legislation in Washington, where it spends $5.3 million last year lobbying the nation's lawmakers, and they've already spent $1.4 million in the first 3 months of this year. I tried to get some stats on what's happening here, pretty hard to get hold of, I didn't get anything, but there's certainly some money being spun around our country too, don't you worry. But they cry that they will save the world from hunger. Multiple studies, as well as an extensive one from the UN, clearly state that hunger isn't about access or distribution of food. The hunger is about access and distribution of food. It's not about producing more. They also cry that we'll use less chemicals. Hang on, they're a chemical company? Well, they're actually using more than ever. They've got the inevitable super weeds happening and they're more potent and more than ever. Look, I could stand here all day and talk about the horrendous track record that they've got, corruption and contamination, but you can do that research yourself and you'll soon discover the only true motivator is profit. So what's happening here in Australia and particularly WA? We grow GM cotton. Very recently a report showed that Aboriginal communities are getting sick from the chemicals used in this production. The cotton's not only used as cloth, but as cottonseed oil, which we're consuming. If it says vegetable oil on the label, it could be cotton, as with canola. We grow GM canola. In coaching up Steve Marsh, he's in the midst of a lawsuit from GM contamination. He has lost his organic certification. I was sent an email from him last night, and that's going to be read out by dawn afterwards. This is a crime that happened despite continuous concerns, not just from him, asking them to really look at this, and they were targeting the then government and the then Terry Redmond, who was our agriculture minister. You may remember him. In fact, he may actually go down in history because he's got quite some great comments up his sleeve that he made. He suggested after the Steve Marsh incident that GM tolerance should be allowed in organics. What a moron! Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say moron, I meant to say that's an oxymoron. Maybe for displaying a petition with 27,000 signatures on it. Maybe for allowing GM canola trials in shires that have been declared a GM-free stance shortly after stating he would honour those shires that chose to be GM-free. In Australia, we have GM trials. No one in the world is growing GM wheat trials. No one in the world is growing GM wheat commercially, and no one wants it. With a more pervasive pollen, its contamination ability is far greater than GM canola. But in 2010, in what was stated to be a collaborative agreement, Monsanto bought WA's public plant breeding share into Intergrain. Intergrain happened to have 40% of all the wheat grown in Australia. At the time, it was very controversial in 2010, and Intergrain claimed they will remain independent. Monsanto at the same time, and I quote, said it can guarantee buying more of the company in the future. But as more people get educated, GM technology, people are standing up against it, calling for the precautionary principle, calling for independent research, calling for GM labelling, and calling for accountability. Just 3 days ago, that bill I told you about that Monsanto tried to stop GM labelling, a senator, and I'm sure it's because of the groundswell that's happening in America, a senator put forward a new amendment, the Right to Know Amendment, so hopefully they can have labelling.
Absolutely.
But the battle is still on. There's
This is
still
central
time
to
for more
democracy.
amendments to be put on, so we still need pressure around that issue.
Everyone
We are
has the right to know if
understanding
it
that
affects
this
you.
is not just a consolidation of seed companies. It's really a consolidation of the entire food chain, and that worries us, to say the least. But we are powerful. As food consumers, every time we go shopping, we proactively participate in shaping the world our children will inherit. We can save seeds, we can grow our own, we can start a food shop, we can help our local schools establish a veggie patch, and we can keep standing up for what we believe in again and again until we are heard. I just finally finished with the cultural anthropologist Margaret Mead, and I just love this quote. I put it up on the site. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. I'm just going to pass you over to Dawn Cotton from Denmark.